Hello, John.
Hello, Adam.
So today we're going to talk about job vacancies. There is a slight decline in job vacancies and there's a rise in other areas. So down 3%, the jobs are down 3% and declined by 28% on a year-on-year basis. The tech sector is down 8% since the previous 3 months. There's an increase in construction, education, social care and engineering. Quantity servers are in big demand. Remote working from home is down. And the weird thing about this was published in the RTE website. They don't mention the catering sector, which there's hundreds of jobs lost there, and I just thought it was weird because there's hundreds of restaurants closing.
Yes, which is right. I think we said something about that earlier in a video, and which is a shame because they employ chefs and people, and then they buy the goods from suppliers, and so there's a knock-on effect affecting jobs in other sectors that supply the restaurant trade and pubs that do food as well. They're supplied by the food trade, and so there would be a knock-on effect there with that. And it's not a good sign because when visitors come, tourists, and I saw some today with the weather so good, I saw quite a few groups and been talking to from France and various other places. Tourists need restaurants. Now, fortunately, there's restaurants in Dublin. In Grafton Street, you have Bewley's, and of course, you have McDonald's, and you have one or two other restaurants, and Liquid down O'Connell Street. But there's other places where they have closed, where they're hitherto they were doing great business and upmarket restaurants and all the rest of it, with the loss of those jobs and the loss then for potential visitors that come up from other jurisdictions that like to dine in these places. Because hotels have closed as well, which is not mentioned, and I've seen them closed. Hotels that heretofore were doing good business. A very strange thing that you know. So the fact now, for example, that the figures that are 8% decline in the internet section, the
Tech sector.
information end of it, and that was always a growth area. That's a particularly bad sign, uh, quite frankly. And obviously, the decline in catering jobs, it must be severe, and in some other jobs, but there's an increase because of the shortage of houses for those people engaged in that profession, quantity surveyors and builders and this, that, and the other. And then in the health sector, because of the situation with regard to nurses being overworked and some leave and go to other areas where they're much more respected and their hours are much more amenable to leading a normal life. Oftentimes in the health sector in this country, they have to work much overtime and people are not fit to do a good job when they're in overtime. Likewise, doctors one time used to have to work more than 24 hours. Now, how they can carry out their duties without a lack of sleep, because I mean, 24 hours, you need your 8 hours sleep in that period to be effective. So, when we look at this job losses and the increase in the health centre and some other areas, the building and all the rest of it, it's not a great sign. It's a sign that perhaps worse might be to come because of the instability in the international situation. Um, People in the information technology are taking notice of that. And in this country, the sort of amount of people that have been coming in, 250,000 from other jurisdictions in the last 2 years, and all this strain on education, perhaps health, because they don't all be as healthy as fit as a fiddle. They might have to be going to hospital. So, and the hospitals are not able to cater, which is why we have 600 and 700 people on trolleys constantly for the last number of years, and no new hospitals built to care for them. And the children's hospital costing so far 2.5 billion. when you could build 5 or 6 hospitals for far less than that, that would deal with this overcrowding in hospitals and in the accident and emergency and that. So there are problems, and this decline in jobs is an ominous sign. It could be the start of a major shift. We spoke about artificial intelligence before, and it's an unknown quantity and causes a lot of people worry. I've spoken to people about it since we started discussed it before, and people are somewhat worried about it and about the effect it might have not on sort of mature, middle-aged, older folk, because they have learned enough during their life to be able to distrust anything that might be hard to quantify. So we're living in very strange times with the wars going on in places, as we mentioned before, that is causing instability. And business needs stability and all the rest. But don't forget, from Ukraine, there's a lot of important food ingredients that come from that country heretofore and now being badly affected. And this can have a knock-on effect on people's in various countries that won't maybe have the same health benefits that they have from the supply of basic items coming from Ukraine. So the message is peace, because when you have peace, you have stability. And all these factors, I think, are going to be affecting jobs.
Absolutely. I think the tech sector, it's unusual to see it declining, because it says that it's declined by 28% on a year-on-year basis, which seems like a big figure, because we do.
It's a quarter, over a quarter on a year basis. And it's a very ominous sign, because I mentioned before, jobs of that caliber are not as what would I call it, sound as the food and anything that we produce here by way of food. That's a permanent good feature of an agricultural country like Ireland. And no political party should interfere with the production of food, as the Green Party have done and tried to do. It's a very short-sighted, ill-judged uh, business that they're at. And farmers want to be promoted and thanked for the food that they produce, and also helping exports. Food exports are a good, sound barometer for a country like Ireland. The other exports that were inflated because some of the tech companies, because of the tax situation in other countries, and so on and so forth, and the interference by the EU on our tax structure here. We're an island nation that knew a lot of unemployment in the 50s when I was in the marketplace, and jobs were as scarce as hen's teeth, as we say in Ireland. These expressions in some countries mightn't be too well known because maybe they don't have chickens in cities, so they wouldn't know anything about hen's teeth.
Mm, mm, mm.
So suffice to say that we're living in strange times. What peace needs to be established in those countries like Ukraine and Israel and Gaza, and those in charge would want to start doing that to have this stability, because no country can afford that type of behavior.
Absolutely, but I think like when you look at the tech sector, it's worrying there when you look at those figures, because we do depend heavily on the taxes from the tech sector.
Correct. And they're not something that they can guarantee. It'll be the others. And if that trend continues, how then are they going to be able to pay the benefits that they pay various sectors, including rent allowance for people that haven't got sufficient money or resources to actually pay the going rate to have to be helped by the state, costing, we reckon, probably costing a fortune. From the social welfare section. And of course, older folk have the free travel and some bit of help in other areas as regards their charges for electricity. My electricity has gone up sky high. My last bill and previous bills are damn near up to €400 because as you get older, and if you have a young family, you need heat when the weather is cold in order to be healthy. I visited some houses, and honest to goodness, you'd have to be doing this because it was so cold, and it can't be good for those people. Now, when I was growing up, there was no central heating. Fires, we had fires in the bedrooms, especially when the weather was very cold, for a bit to try and throw out a bit of heat. So we've moved on, and we've had many benefits in regard to that, and the heating and so on and so forth. But it's costing a lot of money, and the central heating, the oil and the gas, it's all gone up very expensive, and even people that's working have to economise there.
I think
So these are all factors that can affect business and health and employment.
definitely the energy costs has had a big impact on the restaurant.
Correct. It's far too exorbitant because they have a lot of, they'd be using quite a lot of electricity. I'll give you one example. We did a story, I think, about Tara mines that have had to let off their workers because they were paying over £1 million a week on electricity charges. It was taking such a clip out of their overall structure that they couldn't sustain it. Now they have various employees to keep everything ticking over and so on and so forth, and maintenance people and that. And I know some from the area that I'm living in Oldcastle, County Meath, that are still employed because they're in the maintenance end of it, and they have to have that because otherwise, when things quieten down, and whoever is responsible for this hike in electricity charges, I think the closure of various electric ESB generation stations because they were using fossil fuel by the Green Party has contributed to it. And of course, the companies involved in the tech sector use quite an amount of electricity in their operations. And so their charges must be very high. So I think the powers that be would want to sort of wake up and realise that perhaps the loss of jobs is be a factor with the high cost of the energy and electricity. If you're running a business like the government are running the business of governing wisely and prudently, wouldn't you take notice of these factors and try to sort of anticipate what likely to happen and that they will be in, unable to pay the sort of payments that they're making to various people, including even old age pensioners?
Absolutely. So there we go. I mean, there's some bad news there, but there's a few green shoots as well in different areas, as we said, construction and
Especially about the building and that, but there's probably a scarcity, and that's not a great sector to be have permanent employment because the process they have to go through to build houses, the planning process, and all the rest of it, it's reckoned that that contributes about 20% of the overall cost of the house and the price of land, the exorbitant price. In other countries, they don't get the prices for land that they get here. So all that needs to be sort of looked at in a pragmatic, prudent way to deal with the problems that we're facing. And every country faces problems. But if you've got a good, prudent government that can anticipate them and take steps to alleviate that,
Mhm.
that's what's required.
There you go. It's a beautiful day out, John Malone. I'm about to go for a walk, so thank you very much for the interview.
And thank you very much. And I've had a walk in Dublin, and it was a very pleasant experience. And then at this stage, I was able to go with my suit without being drowned. Because heretofore, any time I stuck my nose outside the door and I had one go no distance at all, the next thing is a gale of wind and a good downpour, and I'd be drowned. So I'd have to change the clothes when I come back and all the rest of it. And as soon as I put my nose out the door, another gale of wind and another big heavy downpour. So today was absolutely lovely, and the Dublin reflected it. There was an air of jollity. Music was played in Grafton Street. There was an absence of hymns. of a spiritual nature, and I think I'm going to volunteer to do replicate that because I sing hymns on my videos, and I think now I might say have to sing them for the people in Grafton Street, give them a bit of an uplift. Perhaps they might run like jackrabbits some other direction,
Well,
and we'll have hopefully sufficient help by way of equipment because I noticed the ones that singing, they were singing businesses that I wouldn't listen to in a fit or even subscribe to. Mind you, I had to put a euro or two into various people that seem to be in what I call queer street. In other words, their financial situation wasn't maybe good.
mhm.
So I think I forked out maybe about €5 in different parts as I was marching up Grafton Street, including as I was going into the church to say my prayers. There was a lady outside. Well, before I was coming out, I tipped something into her bag, €1, because they're after running out of €2. So hopefully, when we're singing, the basket will be going around to help the people struggling in the music industry, and that we might be getting assistance in that department.
Very good. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.